Oh, we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to our science hangout with the guys from AsapSCIENCE over there. Mitch and Greg. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Joe Hansen from It's Okay to Be Smart. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
And then Julia Wild, who's over there somewhere in another room.
In another room. So far away.
DNews. And I'm Trace. What's up? Welcome to our hangout. Guys, science.
So science.
It's one of my favorites.
We've got questions coming in. You can tweet at us. We all have our own Twitter handles. We'll all have questions. We'll be trying to be as active as we can be and talk back to you all. So questions are great. Otherwise, what's our first topic here? Let me pull up our Google Doc. Somebody have it up? Let's talk about Brontosauruses.
Oh yeah, that guy's back. Guess who's
Yay!
back again.
How do you feel about Brontosauruses, Joe?
I felt cheated. This is like the dinosaur version of Pluto because, like, this old movie, Land Before Time. I'm sure we all remember this movie.
Classic.
Still crying.
Brontosaurus is the main character, and then I find out that it hasn't been a real dinosaur since 1903.
Well, somebody failed to do their research.
Yeah, I think everybody was slow on the uptake.
So I was a little disappointed, and I don't think I've ever quite forgiven the paleontologists of the world, but I was pleased to find out this week that Brontosaurus is being brought back from the dead. Not really, I guess, brought back from the dead, but the name, at least, is being brought back from the dead.
Right.
Was someone on this, like, trying to, was someone like, I need to bring it back, and like, how did this work?
Like they just wanted it so bad.
Yeah, because it seems like, it's a great story.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there whose personal mission was to bring Brontosaurus back. So I mean, a team of scientists did. For people who aren't familiar, this Brontosaurus was demoted to being a subspecies of Apatosaurus, which is another one of the sauropod long-necked dinosaurs. And this team looked at something like 80-something different specimens from different museums around the world and scanned them and put them in a computer and did some analysis and figured out that, hey, there was enough differences that Brontosaurus should be its own genus of dinosaurs.
And wasn't the main difference like the length of the neck too, which seems like
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just something like a bigger vertebra here and there, and then all of a sudden
the neck saved them.
What was the name of the guy
how,
who...
like, Brontosaurus became the name, like how it became so much more popular though.
Jurassic Park, maybe. I don't know.
Or Land Before Time.
Land Before Time.
Isn't it like Thunder something?
Oh, maybe it's just a cooler name. Yeah, like Thunder Neck or something.
Land Before Time 13. The Wisdom of Friends came out November 27, 2007. So if you haven't seen A Land Before Time, there are 13 of them.
a baker's dozen of Land Before Times. That's amazing.
There needs to be more. You
It's
can
about
have
to be
enough Land
14.
Before Time.
It's about to be 14, guys. I know you're really excited. In 2016, we're going to have Land Before Time 14, Journey of the Heart.
Oh.
I'm really impressed with this scientist, this team that spent all this time analyzing this. I would say they really stuck their neck out for this.
You're dating him that all day.
You've been saving that.
You had that written down.
Yeah, you were posting it on your laptop right now.
He's gonna cross that one off the list.
Check.
He just has a list of puns on his desktop.
Don't we all do that? Okay.
I just got this computer back. All my puns are gone.
No, this is a really interesting story, I think, because it just shows us that nothing is kind of set in stone. I promise that wasn't a pun on purpose for dinosaurs, but
Fossils. Oh, please.
That science is ongoing, and it's only because people kept looking for more samples that they were able to kind of get some new information on this. So that's pretty cool. It just teaches us that nothing's maybe 100% for sure ever in science.
Yeah, actually, that's my takeaway from this too. Is that it's not even the same skeleton, right? They reused the name, but the skeleton itself is a different species of dinosaur. But it was like the idea that science was like, oh, this is a thing. It's not a thing, and now it's a thing again. That doesn't really happen in a lot of other fields, a lot of other areas.
Yeah, totally. I totally get behind it and understand that it's evolved and changed. It is great. It is a great test.
And it's pretty cool to talk about how do we, it's kind of arbitrary in some ways how we like define the line of what is one species and the other. Obviously this is like a perfect example where like they're so similar, they're almost the same species in a way that scientists have been able to tell, but now we're deciding that they are different species. But when people think about evolution and think back to like what makes a dog different than a wolf, like when did we exactly start calling them dogs and not wolves, it's kind of that interesting point where we give them all names, but it's really up to us how we organize them.
Yeah, taxonomy is messed up. Which actually reminds me of the discussion about Littlefoot. We just had a friend of ours, Natalia Reagan, come in, and she talked about the Littlefoot fossil that they found that was like a human ancestor. They're debating it's like a 3.7 million year old fossilized skeleton that they named Littlefoot. It's related, and it's along the same lines as like Lucy, I guess. It's really
And it's
also
from the movie.
yeah, also related to our previous topic.
Can we just talk about Land Before Time for like the next hour?
I think with 14 different movies to talk about, I feel like we won't run out of material.
Yeah.
Like, how great is Petrie? Just saying.
That was
Not a dinosaur. Not a dinosaur. He is a pterosaur. I just want to make sure we get our taxonomy straight. Taxonomy geek over here, just making sure we're getting it correct.
Joe is calling you out, Julia.
I just said he was great. I didn't say he was a great dinosaur.
I want to know where's all the plesiosaurs in Land Before Time.
Yeah.
I mean,
They got something against underwater dinosaurs?
It's the Land Before Time, not the Ocean Before Time.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, well, I mean, there's another big story this week. I think maybe the biggest story of the year so far, which the Large Hadron Collider is restarting.
Yeah!
Woo! Yay!
The biggest science experiment ever!
Ever!
Do you guys think it'll be the biggest science experiment ever forever?
No.
No.
Wait till we build
No.
a Dyson sphere. Then that one can be the biggest one ever.
Is that like a really big vacuum? I don't know what you're about. No.
Yeah, it's the one that the ball at the bottom, and you can roll
Right.
around. It's really great for maneuvering around your couch. This Hangout brought to you by. I'm just kidding. It's not brought to you by anybody. It's brought to you by us.
No, I hope we do. I mean, well, I don't even know what the final price tag was on the Large Hadron Collider, but
Do you have any idea of like how much it's cost? Not like final. Have you heard anything ever?
Let's see if Google knows.
Yeah.
I would like to see the electric bill over there.
Yeah. Like, how much does it cost just to start up?
Right. It says Google says that it's 4.6 billion euro, about $6.4 billion. That was as of 2008. So we're looking
Wow.
a lot.
It's like
That's less than I thought.
Forbes says 13.25 billion just went to get to the Higgs boson discovery.
Oh, that's cheap.
The bosons.
But it's an international like thing, right? So I'm curious, like how many people. I would love to know the breakdown of countries as well, and who's gonna,
Yeah, like who's funded it, who's funded what parts of it. Is it like the International Space Station where you kind of like, I built this section,
Yeah.
I'm going to show up and with this, and you show up with your magnets, and we'll make it a thing.
I was actually like reading about how it was such a complex thing to make because it has to be like an international. Everyone wants to have like their hands in it a bit, and so like people would like Korea would be making this thing that would need to be done before like Japan chimed in with their thing, and it was just like a logistical nightmare. Like they interviewed some of the people working there while it was trying to be built, and it was kind of hilarious. Like they just were describing the most strung out like people. It was just like quintessential like scientists, as in they like all were driven to like mad.
And everyone's just mad at the Americans because they're not on the metric system yet, and they can't get.
That's a bit off.
Could you convert that to rods? I don't know how many rods that is.
How many hectares? So the Higgs was the big discovery from the last time we turned this thing on, but they're going to double the energy for this round of experiments, and I don't know. What do you guys think they're going to find?
Well, they don't.
Yeah, it sounded like, I mean, it's been on. They said that a lot of hype sort of came last time they were ready to turn it on, that like they were going to kind of stumble across all these major breakthroughs, and that many did happen, but it took like decades for a lot of this to happen. The Higgs boson they were searching for, but it took decades, and so there's a lot of hype now, but it's like, will we actually get more answers as immediately as we think we will, or will it take decades before we get there?
Yeah, because there's that other atom smasher in like the late 80s, and what did we get from that? We just like refined what we knew. What did we get from that? We didn't get any science.
No.
I know that some people, some physicists, I wouldn't want to say they're like disappointed that they found the Higgs boson, but it just sort of fit nicely into what they knew, and now we sort of have that standard model. All the pieces are filled in, but we still have all these unanswered questions, like gravity and dark energy and dark matter, and they're like
a lot of standard model physics. They're gonna like try and actually detect like gravitons. Can we detect one? How are we gonna do that? Like try and figure out how to answer some of these physics questions that we proved in math, but we haven't actually directly observed, right?
Right.
So hopefully that'll work.
Spooky things like supersymmetry, which, if anybody knows what that is, that.
Right. Is that when I when I put like a mirror filter on my photo booth?
I think that's it. That is it.
That's exactly what it is.
While dressed as a superhero.
That would be. Well, I mean, that'd be ideal. That's like a normal day, like a normal Tuesday.
This will be really interesting, though. I mean, I think the standard model gives us like 5% of the universe, and then there's 95% of the universe that we don't understand yet. So maybe by cranking up the energy to 11 here in this next round, we'll be able to. Hopefully, there's some new physics out there. I don't.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Do you think that they're nervous that nothing new will happen?
I think so, but I think, from what I hear, people are confident. Like this is totally uncharted territory for physics. No one's ever created this kind of energy. I mean, these are energies that are kind of approaching what was around just after the Big Bang. So, I think they're gonna find something. It's just a question of, is it going to be something beyond the standard model that can start to explain some of these, like why galaxies spin so fast and why the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate and all of these things.
Right.
It's exciting.
It's really exciting. And it makes people nervous. That's kind of one of the interesting stories that I think about the Hadron Collider is it makes people really nervous that they think we're going to blow up the universe. We're gonna Doc Brown tear the time-space continuum by meeting Marty in the past kind of stuff. It's cool. Like it's a very cutting edge of science in a way that very few people understand, but the ones that do just blow my brains.
Thank God they exist.
There was another story this week that I've done a number of videos about, is the radiation that they discovered off the coast of Canada.
Oh yeah! We got radiation up in DC.
It's actually closer to you guys than to us, though. We're on the other side of the country, so.
Yeah, true. Yeah, apparently they found some Fukushima radiation off the coast of Canada. For those that are unaware, not very much. Like it's 1,000 times less than a single dental X-ray. I just want to lead with that right there. It's not radiation that you worry about, but they did find it, and they know it's Fukushima because it's cesium-134 and 137, which is what they were using in their reactors. But how do you guys feel about this? Because I feel like, okay.
I'm not worried. I am not worried.
Like, oh, it's cool. Like ocean currents take water.
Whoa! Yeah, it really shouldn't surprise us, right? I mean, the ocean is very big, and the water is eventually going to move around in that ocean. It's going to get places. I'm just glad there are people out there looking for it, because now we're going to know more about not only how ocean currents move, we're going to know more about what the total impact of that radiation spill is going to be worldwide. Like, we'll be able to start tracking fish and seeing what's getting into our food and into our water system. So it's good. We got a lot of people, a lot of boots on the ground, paying attention, but there's still nothing to be scared of.
Yeah. Yep. We've done a couple videos on DNews about stuff like that and why not to worry about it. And people always get up in arms and very angry. It's hard to tell people like that radiation isn't dangerous, but
you're exposed to background radiation every day.
Right. Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
And without radiation, we wouldn't have mutants in comic books. So I say it's an even trade-off.
Joe, you are smart.
Oh,
And it's
so
okay.
I'm gonna blush. Sorry. It's really cool though that if we could plug another one of our YouTube friends, Derek from Veritasium has a great radiation video. This is just one of the things that kind of breaks. The radiation's like a scary word, and this is one of those things that if people just kind of calmly study it and know what the levels mean and what different kinds of radiation are, I think it'll break a lot of that fear because we got a big radiation ball in the sky that comes up every day. So we don't. It's not necessarily something we should be terrified of.
I mean, without radiation, we wouldn't be talking right now because the Wi-Fi is essentially a type of radiation. I mean, cell phone radiation is the thing that happens every day, all the time, in my pocket right now. Fukushima happened in 2011. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it really was 2011.
Wow.
We're old.
When did you start AsapSCIENCE?
2012. Yeah,
2012.
like halfway through 2012, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Joe? When did you guys start?
I started in 2013.
2013.
I feel like a new kid.
We started DNews at the end, like the last month of 2012. So really beginning of 2013. So we're all pretty like new on the science games.
But actually, in the speed of internet, we're veterans, right?
I guess. Yeah. That's true.
Seriously.
Yeah. So one thing I'm afraid of with with Fukushima and things like this is, nuclear power is going to have to continue to be a part of, the questions for the future about alternative energy and stuff. And I don't know, earthquakes and spills like this happen. I feel like it's like 10 steps backwards, and it's just, we saw how everybody shut down. So hopefully, if people continue to get a little more comfortable and aren't scared of these stories, we can bring that back to the table.
Yeah, for sure. Nuclear energy is, I mean, we've done videos as well about like how it's helping people and how it's saving the environment, not hurting it, in terms of the amount of tonnage of carbon being put into the atmosphere from a single coal power plant versus the fingertip size uranium pellets that we have to dispose of that are almost like they could equal size. I think it's 17,000 tons or something of, or 17,000 gallons, maybe, I can't remember the measurement, to one uranium pellet from natural gas to uranium. It's like ridiculous how much energy is stored in there. It's 176 barrels of oil for every fingertip. I'm researching this right now for like a nuclear fuel episode, and it's ridiculous how much bang for your buck you get out of nuclear energy.
E equals MC squared is pretty amazing.
Right.
It's going to be very interesting. I mean, solar roadways aren't going to take us to the future, I don't think. So we're going to have some backup plans.
We're going to need some nuclear oomph.
Let's see if we have a question from the audience. Wow, we've got a lot. Somebody waited for 2 hours. Thanks, Martin. Thanks for waiting. Who knows anything about string theory? Who wants to talk about string theory?
I'm a biologist.
Yeah, me too. I don't know a lot about physics. It's complicated.
String theory is one of these sort of hypothetical unknowns, possible explanations for some of these unexplained phenomena in physics. But I feel bad for string theorists in a way because there's almost no way for them to test their theories. It's one of these like purely mathematical ends of physics, and I think it's really important that we keep doing that. But I do question whether we're ever going to be able to devise experiments that are we get down to that string level and be able to answer some of these questions.
Right. Yeah. It's so complicated to like explain. We could do a whole hangout with a theoretical physicist and still not understand everything.
It would take more than an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to chat with Brian Greene once about this. Humble brag, and and he too is he's even a major he's all for string theory, but definitely open to the question of there could be any number of possible explanations, and this is just one of them. And so far, he's totally willing to admit there's no proof that it is the explanation. So. we'll see how long we keep going in that direction. But I hope they get some experiments.
Yeah, I do too. I mean,
it's pretty admirable to be able to study a field where you don't get that gratification. Like, I think, like, we're biologists because we love kind of like being able to understand our bodies and the world around us and have that connection. But like, I think it's very interesting that people will spend their lives studying something that they can't necessarily fully know or prove.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, but that's probably some of the excitement too.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just not good at math. There's another cool story in the news about NASA's chief scientist saying that we will find alien life by 2025.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I love
I'm ready
this
for that.
one.
So how do you guys feel about that?
I'm freaking out.
Freaking out.
I love
I'm
it.
super pumped.
So to clarify, though, they're not talking about green aliens. They're talking about microbes, more likely. But
Like blue aliens.
who thinks there's green aliens out there?
Maybe green. The bacteria might be green. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's true.
True.
Although it's interesting. Do we know why he was so sure it would be in the next few decades? Was there any particular reason?
I think they I remember reading this the other day, and it said I think it's a she, and Ellen maybe. I can't remember her last name now.
Yes, it is.
But
Ellen Stofan.
Ellen Stofan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, we lost Trace, but we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
Ellen called me out. She got mad. But sorry.
Yeah, so this came at the same time as a report about a lot of the non-planetary bodies in the solar system, some of the moons of Jupiter and Saturn and things like that. And as our telescopes get more powerful, and we're looking at our solar system and even beyond, we're starting to see water's everywhere in a lot of different places around the universe. And what we know about our life and every kind of life chemistry that we know is that's the first step. I think that there is a pretty good chance that somewhere in the universe it is big enough and there's enough water that there's going to be something in there.
That's right.
I'm not quite sure about this being able to detect it in 10 years, but I'm optimistic.
It's like 25.
Yeah, 25. Okay, we'll like.
Oh no, it is 10 years. 2025.
10
years is questionable.
That's incredibly exciting, but we're going to need to send probes to places like Europa, Ganymede, Enceladus, these amazing moons to check that out. I don't really know if we've got those missions on the table yet, but we do have some telescopes that are going to launch that I think could get us some good observations there.
Yeah, I know Bobbitt, the Mohawk guy from NASA, was tweeting about it and he said because he's working on the Europa mission now. And he said, she said we might find life in 20 years. That's the same timeline as the Europa mission, just saying. Like, I think Europa is a pretty good candidate right now for if we were going to find life in our solar system. Europa's like one of the places that we think it would happen. And I think, you're absolutely right. It's like, mathematically speaking, right, the more planets we know about, the more we find, the more likely it is that life is going to be found on one of those.
Mm-hmm. It's I'm really interested to see what the telescopes are going to come into play here too, because we have things like Kepler that's been looking at exoplanets, and it's like watching a flea crawl in front of a light bulb the way that Kepler looks for these planets.
Right.
So it's really hard to know anything about the atmosphere that's around that planet, and so far we don't have that data. But I think with James Webb and some of these future telescopes going up there, they're getting so good at seeing that tiny little rim of chemistry that's going on around a planet. They're going to be able to see what kind of water and vapor, and like if there's things like oxygen, which is a really weird thing to find in atmospheres, might be a sign of life. So I think that exoplanet stuff is going to give us some hints too.
Yeah, and that's just like life that we can recognize. What if we find microbes that don't have anything resembling DNA? I mean, here at the office, some of our other coworkers were like, microbes, boring. And I was like, not at all. What happens if they are completely and utterly different in every way? just because we use DNA doesn't mean that an alien is going to use DNA. Doesn't mean, like, it's, who knows what kind of building blocks it's going to have. Maybe it'll be like a collected cell group that doesn't have a single brain, or, you know, maybe like a colony of ants that knows how to stand up and walk around. Freaky. I just created a nightmare for myself.
Somebody better copyright that comic book. That's going to be
nightmare fuel. That's what it is, really.
I'm glad we have people like Ellen out there saying that this is possible, because that gives young people something to work on.
Yeah, totally.
They don't have anything else to do, so we should work on this.
It's definitely an area that like piques the general public's interest, I think. Talking about not just space, but alien life out there, whether it's microbes or whether people are imagining something much more extreme. I think it's a nice way to kind of get the average person excited about like science and what's coming in the future.
Yeah, it was kind of a week for those stories with the Brontosaurus and with this. They're like those like gateway drugs to science, aliens and dinosaurs.
And then after after you're tolerant to aliens and dinosaurs, that's when you get a Large Hadron Collider. This is the hard stuff. The hard stuff.
I mean, everybody's got a gateway drug to their science, right?
Exactly.
Mine was space camp. I went to space camp. That was what got me. What about you guys? How did you decide to be a biologist?
That was one of the questions.
Oh, what tweeted us that maybe? Yeah. I'm not sure. Mine's like more fluid. There's not necessarily one instance that sort of inspired me. Definitely there were lots of role models and great teachers, and I think we usually talk about how we were lucky to find and have good teachers when we were in high school and in university. Obviously role models like Bill Nye when I was younger was somebody who kind of inspired me just to like be curious about the world, not necessarily biology. I think for biology it wasn't until university that I really realized that was like the field that I loved most, especially biochemistry and being able to look into the body and relate it to myself in a way and translate that to friends and stuff, whether it be about drinking or sleeping or whatever, something that was fun for them, which is kind of what we do now. But yeah, I think there was not necessarily one instance for me. What about you, Greg?
For me, I was lucky with an amazing science teacher, like a slew of them in high school, and then that's why I went on to become a science teacher. So I've taught science in the classroom because that was, like, I didn't have any I didn't have cable, so I actually didn't watch Bill Nye, which was awkward when I met him.
Oh, no.
I never had, like, much influence from my parents or anything. It was all in school, and teachers who really, like, manifested love for me. So, yeah, like, that's why education is so important, and why it's so interesting to think about people now having things like YouTube and the internet and the ability to sort of like find information on their own that are being curated by sort of like massive networks and stuff.
I know. Back when I was a kid, all we had was that Microsoft Encarta disk you'd put in the computer.
Yeah.
And just start at A and keep reading.
Yeah.
And that was what my
Oh, well, a certain age
Good
group of the
sound
audience is going to completely love that, but...
We had the Encyclopedia Britannica on CD. It was like 7 CDs. It was crazy. But
yeah, I can't remember. It's hard to remember what there's no single moment, but it was just kind of the same thing. Like the more you find out about how your body works, I just kept feeling like instead of like I was understanding less, like I was more amazed that we were alive, and I was more amazed to find out that anything worked. It was so amazingly complex and mind blowing. I do remember kind of like dissecting things in some summer camp programs I did when I was a teenager, and you find like one animal inside of another animal that it ate, and you're just like, this is the circle of life right in front of me. And looking down into a microscope and seeing that we're all made of the same stuff, it just blew my mind forever. So then I went to college for like 10 years to study it. So
yeah, I dissected a cat in high school. That was it was that specific biology teacher that like really made me fall in love with it. 'Cause before science was like memorizing facts, but like really getting that hands-on experience, like getting my hands dirty. And I'm like a huge cat lover, but dissecting a cat is one of the coolest experiences of my life.
That's crazy. How many cats did they have that were dissectable in your class?
There's like companies that like just
Oh,
have
no.
animals to dissect, and they have
Not
like
not the kitty.
tons of cats.
Imagine it was a dog or something, I couldn't deal with that. If it was a dog, I would be like, no, I'm done. I'm out of science.
Julius, forgetting to tell you she grew up in Soviet Russia.
In Soviet Russia, cats dissect you. Yeah, like I said, I went to space camp, so for me, my parents were always like really interested in pushing me toward trying science, and like they loved science but didn't understand a lot about it. So for me, it was like my dad was a history teacher for a while, and my mom was a trainer for the like state of Michigan. So like she also taught things. So it was like this lifelong learning process. So they sent me to physics camp because I was that kid when I was like 7 or 8.
That's cool.
It was fun. We went to the University of Michigan and threw eggs off of the roof to try and see if we could build a parachute.
Oh, yeah, we did
Oh, yeah.
that
I
too.
know it's like a summer camp classic.
Yeah, it was great. And then I went to space camp when I was like 10. And after that, it was just all nerd all the way.
That's what I love about what we do is not everybody has the ability to do that. Like not everybody has the money or the parents or the teachers around them to support them and to go to these camps. You know, not everybody can do that. So I feel like really proud that we all get to be that for people when they're going home at the end of the day. Like we can be like their little taste of science camp.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's
Warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. Oh, someone wants to know if we could use wormholes for space travel in the future. Bethany Alexander. I don't know, Bethany. Wormholes are still one of those things we've never observed. So mathematically speaking,
anything is possible.
The universe is big.
Yeah, if you just want to,
Right.
according to the math, I mean, totally
Yeah,
could
we
happen in the
could,
future. The future
but
is
we could also die.
yeah, no, there's no indication that we could create, observe, stabilize, travel through a wormhole.
Right.
But it certainly does teach us an interesting lesson about how space and time are related. You know, with the old like sheet of paper example that Neil deGrasse Tyson uses, and you poke the hole through the paper. And that's the quickest way between 2 points in the fabric of space and time. But we don't have a big pencil to make wormholes in space. So.
That would be a pretty giant pencil. I mean, really.
It would. NASA, we're looking your way here.
Yeah.
We think how many asteroids we'd have to mine to get all that graphite for it?
Oh man, would it have to be a number 2 pencil, or could we make it a different kind?
It would be like a number 2 trillion pencil.
Yeah. We could take the biggest Scantron ever.
I don't think we're gonna do that. I don't think we're gonna get warp drive. I don't think we're gonna get these things are really interesting science experiments for us. But I'm more interested in how we're gonna just get a few people back up to space on a regular basis and maybe farther away than the moon. That's a good starting point.
There was another question about why we're not going to the moon again from Aiden. Aiden Didsec. I'm not sure. Sorry, Aiden. But why we aren't going to the moon again? And I don't think that we're not going to the moon again. It's just not in the immediate plan at the moment. We're looking at asteroids. We're looking at Mars. We're looking at a variety of other places. The moon it's not like, oh, been there, done that. It's more, we think we can learn more by going to an asteroid than we could by going back to the moon yet again. Not just in terms of like where we're physically going, but also just the processes of getting to an asteroid is different than the processes to get to the moon. And that could teach us more about deep space.
You know, the Apollo program was such an amazing program is because that was farther than we'd ever been before. That's why people got excited, and that's why we were willing to give 1 or 2% of the national budget to science, to researching that, to NASA, to be able to do this mission. I mean, the whole world came together to go in that direction. So we have to set our target farther, I think, if we want to bring people together again. It's like boldly going where no one has been before, not where we've already been that one other time. And if we can go to Mars, then going back to the moon will be really easy.
Yeah.
That's a question. Someone said, would you guys go to Mars if you could?
Do I get to come back?
I don't know.
That's
Yeah, no. What about the Mars One mission? How do you all feel about the Mars One mission?
The Mars One. I think anybody who's keeping up with that, it's been kind of uncovered to be a big kind of reality show shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen either.
I declare shenanigans.
You need a rubber stamp that says shenanigans on it, I think.
Absolutely. I don't know. Yeah, it depends on who gets to come with me. If I gotta go by myself, like, do I get some cool friends? Do I get to, like, can I still have Google Hangouts back with Earth?
That's it. Those are all valid questions, Joe, but we won't be able to answer those till you get there. So when it...
You're right.
Keep going.
I want Google Fiber on the moon, or on Mars, and then I'll go.
Got it. I mean, that could be pretty nice. They're doing an experiment now in Hawaii, I think, where they have people living in isolation. Because to bring it back to the biology angle, it's not even just going to space. That's hard enough. But, like, we can't just build new technology to make our social lives work better. And being alone in the spaceship to go to Mars, hang out on Mars, and maybe be stuck there for a year and then come back or whatever, I mean, that's a taxing, like, psychological problem. So they're working on that in Hawaii right now. They actually gave them cached internet, which is what made me think of it. They don't have live internet. They have, like, a cache of internet. So they could actually get to the end of their internet, depending on how much they get to surf. I don't know.
Wow, that's cool. Is that who is part of that experiment? Is it just?
I'd have to look. I just remember because I wanted to go and explore it. It was empty for a while, and they just restarted the experiment earlier this year, where they put someone in this kind of like biodome essentially, but it's like a house that they're living in by themselves.
Completely by themselves?
I think they have a team, like 1 or 2 people, although don't quote me on that exact number. I just remember reading about it.
They have to hang out with Pauly Shore, actually, in the biodome.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also doing an experiment in northern Canada where, like, the soil, right, and the vegetation's similar to Mars, and they're trying to grow things there.
Oh, yeah.
There's, like, a part of Canada that is as desolate as Mars, and they're trying to see.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing about these missions is you take everything you're going to need. Like, you don't get a resupply mission. They're not dropping off, you know, they're not dropping off fresh astronaut ice cream. You gotta set up. You gotta be the first farmer. You gotta be the first pioneer, the first doctor, the first air purifier. I mean, I don't think. The more I explain this, the more anxiety-inducing it is. I think we're really good at sending. I think we're really good at sending robots. Robots are doing great.
Yeah.
Robots are awesome. I'm loving this. I'm loving sending robots to space.
So there was a big question. A show called Space Time that just premiered from PBS Digital Studios asked why we aren't thinking about going to Venus. It's closer. It's actually similar in size to Earth, mass-wise. You might not have the same gravity problems, and sure, it's got an atmosphere that could melt lead down on the surface. But what if we built cloud cities?
I mean, we'd have to get Billy D. Williams to run it. So
I'm totally fine with that.
We're running out of time. That's what I'm saying. We gotta get going. Does he get a cape?
Absolutely. You can't trust that guy, though. You can't trust him.
No, you can't. I've read about these too. They're really cool. He's like, they want to put dirigibles up above the surface of Venus, where the temperature is not deadly, even though the atmosphere of Venus is. It was a pretty cool. Like it's kind of an amazing thing to think about.
And
is Venus easier to get to?
It is a little bit closer on average in its orbit, and we've already sent spacecraft to both. We can. It's certainly not any harder to get to than Mars.
Yeah.
We'll keep that at one on the list.
I want to see dirigibles on Venus, just because dirigibles.
Fun today.
Yeah. Why don't they just make a comeback? I mean, the Hindenburg was how long ago? It's about time to make a comeback.
It was a while.
Dirigibles on Venus is actually the name of my bluegrass band.
It's funny. Well done, Joe. Was that one on the list? Did you?
No, that was spontaneous.
Yeah, I always feel like in every television show ever, I know this isn't really science, it's more geek, but in every television show ever, you can always tell when you're in an alternate universe or an alternate reality because there are dirigibles there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for some reason, no alternate reality of Earth had the Hindenburg, like in the show Fringe. You know they're in the other universe because there's dirigibles around.
Yeah, there was the episode of Doctor Who that had dirigibles in London. And they're like, oh, this isn't our universe.
You can tell, because dirigibles.
Dirigibles.
So, maybe educational for everyone. If you see dirigibles around, you are in an alternate reality.
Yeah. I'm from the Midwest, and we had the Goodyear blimp would always be hanging about, and that was always like really exciting as a kid when the blimp would go by.
Unfortunately, we're running out of helium, so a lot of these, unless you want to start filling them with hydrogen again, which is iffy.
It was one time.
But yeah, we are losing helium. It just turns out that it's too light for Earth to keep it, and we're not making any more since the Big Bang. So maybe dirigibles aren't in our future.
Yeah.
Which, to bring back to nuclear energy, if we can figure out fission,
Yeah, that's true. Then we'll get some helium.
then we'll get all the helium we need. I mean, what kind of the best energy-creating system ever? It uses hydrogen, the most plentiful element in the universe, and creates helium for balloons. It's like the happiest of all the energies.
Everyone wins in this scenario.
I don't know, yeah. It seems great.
So there was are any of you guys synesthetes? Do any of you have synesthesia?
No.
My friend does.
Really?
Yeah, she's an artist. She's a painter.
So,
I don't.
Mike Heisenbootel, great name, wanted to know how colors make you feel and why. And I love this idea that like seeing colors can make you actually feel things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just did an episode on it. It's just went up today. And it sounds so unscientific, like colors can impact how you feel, but they do, and it seems like red is one of those that really has a lot of emotion associated with it, and it's not just like anger and attractiveness. It's a whole bunch of things. Like there was one study that showed sports teams who had like more testosterone were more likely to choose red jerseys over blue jerseys. Yeah, and they think like, okay, maybe this has to do with our culture, but no, there was some studies that showed even monkeys have an attraction to red. Okay, that's interesting.
Take that into account with your favorite soccer, basketball, or American football team, I guess, right?
All three.
Played simultaneously.
Yeah.
But this is
all
cool. I guess I always thought you had to sort of be like a synesthete to feel these. To feel something from colors, but so I guess it means like we're all feeling something. That's cool.
Yeah, I remember doing some research years ago about, there's all of these stories about logos and like design, and the reason that they use reds and yellows in logos is psychologically because red is exciting, so they'll like throw some red in there to get you excited about it, and then they'll throw some yellow in there because yellow supposedly makes you feel a different way. So like combine that to kind of like paint with your emotions, which is really cool.
Yeah, and red, one of the theories about why red is like so strongly tied with emotion is because it has to do with communication, because like whenever we're angry or excited, our face flushes, and so we're like evolved to be really sensitive to red.
That's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Mitch and Greg, you guys have a video about why we blush, so this, I feel...
We do, yeah.
No, but I guess like that.
Although,
I mean,
no, go ahead.
That's less associated with, I mean, it is like, it's human communication, right? Like, it's a perfect way to display something without having to say it, and it's a genuine way because people can lie with words, so if they feel sorry about something, or say someone does something shameful to you and they don't blush, but they tell you they're sorry, you may not be able to communicate, or you may not trust them, but blushing is sort of this genuine response that acts as a piece of information for you to read off of other people. So it's definitely color, and it makes sense that red would be that color that we most highly associate.
And
That's really interesting.
It also shows vulnerability, right? It's attractive.
Mhm.
Humans are kind of attracted to it.
Yeah, because it's so real.
Yeah, like
you can't really fake blushing. I don't know. Can you? Does anyone?
I think there's makeup for that called blush.
Yeah, it's interesting I never thought of it like that, because they did research about how people are attracted to it, because it sort of has this genuine vulnerability, and then it's so interesting I forgot that people put on blush.
Yeah.
The same with lipstick. I mean, it's it's not only when we're embarrassed, but it's when we're excited, aroused.
To use a scientific term, not a sexy term.
So it's like, things like lipstick, and you see this color in the lips. That's why, humans are some of the only creatures that have what are called, everted lips, where our lips are like exposed, and we can see that blood, we can see that pink, and so certain people accentuate that with makeup to sort of create the sensation of emotion, or like to bring out some behavior in other people. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Makeup in general has always been fascinating, because it's like one of those things that started as a way to kind of pop certain features, and it slowly evolved throughout cultural society. Both men and women used to wear makeup. Women wear it now in like certain societies, but men are still okay with wearing it in other societies. I mean, I don't know, I find it super fascinating.
Yeah,
because it's all this kind of manipulation. Like, we've kind of learned this manipulation of our emotions without actually, no one sits down and is like, well, here's why you put on blush. Let's study it in this science textbook. It's like, because it shows vulnerability and sexual arousal potentially. Like, no, it's because, you put it on because, your mom put it on, or, because
you like
the way it looked nice. Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was a way when people were often malnourished and maybe not of the greatest health all the time, and around the 1500s, it was a way to add a little literal color back to your life. If you say you had a vegetable.
Pinch your cheeks a little bit. Get going.
I don't have the plague. I'm wearing blush.
I look so good. I look so good now.
Painting over death.
Giggling about death. It's another day. I just did a thing. Speaking of like more biology fun, I just did a thing today. Did you see this story about histones and their inheritability? Did you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
So DNA is about 2 meters long in each cell. It's about in humans, it's about 2 meters of DNA. But it doesn't just like they don't just like jam it in there. Like they don't just kind of they have to curl it around stuff. So that's the histones. And we have a video coming out about it for more information. But it's basically the histones are proteins that the DNA spools around that affect gene expression on that DNA. And it turns out they're affected throughout your life, epigenetics, what. But they're also potentially inherited. So if I'm stressed out a lot, my histones will then be inherited to my kids, and they will have stressed out histones that affect their DNA expression.
Yeah, this is super interesting. It totally challenges our ideas of evolution. If people remember this guy Lamarck, who had theories before Darwin, he would say things like, if a giraffe is reaching up to eat leaves at the top of a tree, then its neck is going to get longer, and then its offspring's neck will be longer. Great story. That is not how it works. But this is good. People threw that idea away for a long time. And this epigenetic inheritance that we've seen a couple examples of is sort of challenging that again, that you're able to pass these things on to offspring. It's not in the DNA, it's not in the letters of the genetic code, it's on top of that. That's the epigenetics part of epigenetics. And it's weird and wild. And, I think there's still some question marks about how much, how widespread it is. But, there's studies about people who grew up in famines and didn't have enough nutrition, and then you see different effects in their offspring and their grandchildren. It means a lot for kind of how we interact with our environment and nutrition and how from childhood to death.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
I also love history. I just think
they're totally amazing. Yeah, epigenetics is going to be an awesome field for all you kids out there who want to study biology. It's an amazing field. These little chemical tags get put on those those little beads, and then the DNA wraps around it like a string, and it can open up the DNA to make it easy to read. It can close it up to make it hard to read. It can do all kinds of things. And yeah, the fact that this can get passed on based on, you know, I don't know, something that you eat or don't eat, or if you're stressed out or you're not stressed out, makes me want to pay a little more attention to making sure I'm in a good mood every day. Just in case. Just in case.
Just in case. It's true.
Yeah, but you know, genetics are still a huge. I think probably going to end up being most of what by far most of what carries on our information to the next generation. But you know, hey, we're entering a new era, and it could maybe explain a lot of these things that we don't have good answers for about environmental contamination and some diseases that we haven't quite been able to trace solely to DNA letters.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I thought was the most fascinating, was that we spend all of this time learning solely about, you know, the DNA strand itself, and not also the kind of environment that DNA strand spends its time in. You know, those proteins can affect a lot of different things. And mitochondrial DNA is a shock for some people, to be like, oh, well, there's this whole other DNA, you know, just so you know. And it's also influencing, but in a different way. I don't know. I think all of that is so amazing. Every time I read about it, it brings me back to what you were saying earlier, where it's like, the more I read about it, the more I'm like, oh, crap. I gotta learn so much more about this.
I don't understand anything.
Once you accept the fact that you don't know anything, that is when you have truly discovered something.
Hello.
Quotable. We'll put that on. We'll put it on an inspiration board.
Yeah. That needs to be on a T-shirt.
Yeah, get it on a T-shirt.
Well, I'll write that down.
Okay, go ahead, Julia.
Well, I got a question about drugs, which is always fun, but we're like reaching the end of our hangouts. I don't know how.
Go for it.
Talk about drugs. Somebody asked about weed. Is weed really harmful? Which we could talk about, but I'm also interested in like psychedelics and how they haven't been studied for a long time. They've been banned, and then now it's coming back into vogue as like potential treatments for anxiety and depression.
There's an important perspective on any chemical that we're taking to affect things that are going on in our brain. If it's working in the brain, if it's hitting a neuron and causing a reaction, that means there's already something in your brain that it fits into. So I think we definitely don't want to, like, I don't like it when people kind of treat them as unnatural, but that doesn't mean that they're all completely safe.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like psilocybin or like magic mushrooms, like what was interesting too, and I think that they were interested in their ability to get rid of anxiety in people who have like terminal illness, right? And like they actually did studies where they gave shrooms essentially to people like in a specific lab setting, and they all spoke later about how a majority of them found it was the most spiritual part of their lives, and like they were happier and felt like less depressed after, and it had this like sort of like, you know, like overarching positive effect on them in a way that they're like, yeah, like nowadays they're like, maybe this could be used for people who are in like severe detrimental situations. And I think, and then also what they saw happen in the brain was so like miraculous, and like it was able to like light up different neurons that like never really had before. And then it's like they should be doing more studying on these things, because it almost seems like it was like a cultural taboo that led to it being like
right, exactly.
added. 2015.
I even think, like, relating that back to the question from the person is it bad for you? We always go back to the phrase, the dose is the poison. If you eat, like, too much of anything, it can be bad for you. Broccoli can be toxic to you in high enough doses. And so
water.
Really down to everything's kind of, like, in moderation. Some things are obviously much more potent than others and would kill you instantly versus other things which would take a lot. But in general, yeah, I think it's an important message to realize. And just because something is natural doesn't mean it's good for you, and just because something's synthetic doesn't mean it's bad for you.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's illegal where you live, then it can be bad for you in a very different way.
Yeah.
That's a whole other question of whether or not that should be true. But people are starting to ask those questions. I think we are breaking that stigma for a lot of these things to decide that, you know what, sure, we do need to take another look at them. The answer may not be yes for all of them, but the stigma is being broken, and that's really important. And I think we're seeing it's not the end of the world if we kind of give these things a chance.
Yeah. I love that you're seeing more and more proposals for like using psychedelics for various scientific pursuits, trying to figure out, like you guys were talking about, like you and Mitch and Greg were talking about, like figuring out if these chemicals can actually help us move forward in various scientific studies is incredible. I also find it funny though, like that science can always ruin a good thing. Where like they found out that medical marijuana was great for cancer, but what they really wanted was like the pain-killing properties and like the munchy properties, not so much the high properties. So they're like, okay, well, we'll just engineer some marijuana that doesn't get you high, right? That's the solution. We'll just make marijuana that makes you hungry and kills the pain, but doesn't get you high. That's it. That's easy. And people were like, oh, you just missed the whole thing. But that's really, I mean, that's ultimately the goal, right? It's not to, somebody's depressed, let's give them magic mushrooms. It's somebody's depressed, let's give them the chemical component of the magic mushroom that they respond to the best. You know?
And let's figure out why they're depressed too. Let's not medicate our way out of everything.
Very true. That's a good point. Okay, we got a few minutes left. I do want to point out that Mitch and Greg, you have like a little like something. I feel like you guys just wrote a thing. What did you write a thing? You have a thing. It's like a piece of, it's like a bunch of pieces of paper like together.
We don't even have one.
Ah!
It was sitting right over there.
I got mine in the other room.
We don't even have a copy.
You just give them all out.
Now we'll begin the live reading.
We have the old copy.
And look, they're all like brown and like not fully done.
We have like
That's like a coloring book, though.
Yeah, that's a coloring book version.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about it. I want you to plug it. Plug your stuff.
If you watch our videos online, we like to take funny questions, like many of us here do, and just make them interesting. And so the book's kind of an extension of that, where we answer many, many more questions. Some of our favorite videos were readapted to be in the book, but we also picked about like 50% new questions that are never going to be videos, and just had fun with them by drawing them and talking about them. The science of sexy.
Hey.
So yeah, you can check it out. You can go to AsapSCIENCE.com or any bookstore, and you should be able to find it. If you're in North America, it'll be out in other parts of the world at some point.
Oh, and this is an example of the evolution. This is a very heteronormative image, and
Yes,
so we
it
actually
is.
have all different types of sex for the.
We
final
did, yeah. If Joe, you open yours, you'll find.
What
that
page
there
is
are
it?
more
What page is it?
Oh, it's gonna be a different page too. Things have
I don't know what
gone.
page that is. Oh, here it is. Found it.
All right.
It's a whole different like thing there.
Big that.
Look at that. Way to go, you guys. It's a great book. You can pick it up Amazon, I assume. Guys,
You're in the book.
I'm in the book. That's actually that is an autobiographical photo. It's not an illustration. Thanks for putting me in the book, you guys. That's so nice.
Well, thanks for plugging it.
It's really good. It is really good. We have a copy at work, and I read it at lunchtime sometimes.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I guess we've wasted another hour talking about science.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It's never a waste.
Wasted.
I mean, we did end talking about drugs. No, not a coincidence. Guys, do you have any parting words?
I love you.
Me?
No, thanks everybody for making all of this possible for us to like do what we do. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Thanks for all the questions. Those were great questions.
Sorry we couldn't get to everybody's questions. We got a lot of them.
There's just so much science.
You can always tweet at us, guys. Julia is Julia_science. Mitch and Greg are at AsapSCIENCE. They also have their own handles. What are your handles, guys?
At Mitchell Moffitt.
At Whale Watch Me PLZ.
And Joe is Joe J to the Izzo, which is
Yes.
It's like a little cultural time capsule.
Look it up, kids. Look it
It's
up.
vintage.
Cool.
If that's vintage.
What's yours, Trace?
Mine is my name because I wanted to make it as hard for people to spell as possible. So Trace Dominguez. And also come watch us all on YouTube if you don't already. I assume if you're here you probably do. But if you don't, we're all on YouTube. So come find us. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thanks to you guys for joining us, all the way from Canada and Texas.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is fun.
Of course, it was really fun. We should do it again.
Can't wait.
All right.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.